All right, it's recording. Hi folks, my name is Jerry Gagne from Foy's Pigeon Supplies. This is the second edition of Foy's on Facebook. We did our first one 2 weeks ago. Very, very pleased with it. I don't know how it all works, but I do know we had over 2,000 people watching, and from what I understand, total watching and likes were over 4,000. So we thought that was pretty darn good. Before we get started on what I want to do, I wanted to mention to you that all of the 2018 bands that you ordered are on their way. The APA, NPA, the AU, the IF, IPB, all of them have been mailed. So if you haven't got yours, just remember it is the holiday season. Give it a week, and if you don't get them, you can call us then. Because we've got lots and lots of calls from people who want to know if we'd mailed them. Now, as you know, the way this works is we're going to be on the air from anywhere from a half an hour to an hour, depending on the questions. We did get 5 or 6 questions before we even started today, so we have those questions. But if you want to ask a question, just send it in to Facebook. I don't even know the terminology. Is that what you do? Just Facebook us, and the girls will give me a question. One of the questions, I think the man's name was Mr. Bondo, B-O-N-D-O? Blondo. So I'm assuming he's watching. He asked if I would demonstrate how to vaccinate a pigeon. So that's what we're going to do now. And what we're going to vaccinate for is paratyphoid. Right now in the United States, there's only one vaccine that you inject, and that's a KM1, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate. We're hoping to have PMV within the next 30 to 60 days here in the United States, and when we do, we'll talk about it so you know that we do have it. Now, when it comes to vaccinating, you have 2 different ways that you can do it. This is the simple syringe that we use. This is a 3 cc syringe, and the vaccine we're going to be talking about is the paratyphoid vaccine. It requires a 0.25 cc injection. This is a 3 cc syringe. So if you were to have this full, then you would have enough to do 12 birds. Just dropped it. Okay, this is what the vaccine looks like, the KM1 vaccine. There's a little aluminum tab here. What you do is you get a fingernail or a little knife and pop that open. And underneath here is a rubber stopper. So what you're going to do, I was going to mention, this is what I use. I don't like to use the automatic guns. A lot of people do, and they are available, and Foy sells them. And this is what it looks like. Not a complicated item. All you do is basically, I want to show you how this works. There's a stopper, and this is going to go into the bottle, and when it goes into the bottle, then you want to fill your gun. So I'm going to put this back on here. There's a little dial right here that you can set the cc's. This one happens to be set on 2.5. It spins, so if you were vaccinating and they wanted a 1 cc, this will go all the way up to 2 cc's. So it's convenient for a lot of people. All you basically do is the bottle, there's a little collar. This bottle slips in this way, and you're ready to go. Every time you squeeze, it squeezes out 1/4 of a cc or 2.5. Okay. So if you have any questions about the syringes and so forth, you're more than welcome to call. But like I say, this is what I use. I fill, depending on how many birds I'm going to do, I have all of these syringes. And if I'm going to do 24 birds and I know this is going to do 12, then I'm going to fill up 2 of them. If I'm going to do more, I'm going to line them up and they're all going to be full. Now, this is the racing homer that I want to show you how to vaccinate. This bird here is called they might call it a yellow splash. Let me have that other one, Gina. So I'm really interested in this color. I don't know whether you've seen them or you can see the color plainly, but I like the speckled on its wings. Here's another one, a little darker. And what I'm going to do is start mating a few birds that are this colored this way, and see if I can't raise some more. Now I'm going to push back a little bit so that you can see how I do it. And I'm going to do this. A lot of people ask me about vaccinating here. There's a pocket right here in the leg. Hope you can see it. It's and the bare skin down in there, or you can get to the bare skin. I can see it. And they want to know if you can vaccinate there. Many years ago, I did. I had a conversation with a pigeon veterinarian, and he said, no, Jerry, don't do it that way. It's not as effective. You want to do it in the back of the neck. And I can do all the birds by myself, and once you get going, it's pretty darn easy. So I put the bird between my legs. Can you see that? Now, I do that so that I've got control of the bird. The bird can't go anywhere. And then, let me have that spritzer, Gina. What I like to do, now you can use rubbing alcohol. What I've got here is water, and water is fine. And what I'm going to do is, see, scissors. Think of scissors. I'm going to put my fingers there. Now I've got control of the bird's head. I don't want you to think that this isn't, I'm not cruel. It's that nobody likes to have their head twisted, but that's what I'm doing. So I'm separating the feathers. And I don't know whether you can see, but I can't see the skin. On this bird, he's got a lot of feathers, so you can't get to the skin very easily, and you want to see the skin. So what I'm going to do is spritz it. So I've wet the area, and now I'm going to twist the head back, and I've got some bare skin here. So then what I do is I take, if I can get it off, all right. Here's your needle. Now what you want to do is first you're going to pull the plunger all the way back. Nothing's in it yet. Then you're going to stick that into the rubber stopper that I showed you. Then you're going to push the plunger down. Then you're going to pull the plunger out slowly, and it'll bring the vaccine right into your syringe. Then I'm going to tilt the head back. I see some skin, and it goes right into the skin. You want to go this way, not this way. If you go this way, you may do damage to the pigeon. So you want to go straight down. And it's in the skin now. The bird didn't twinge. I mean, I'm sure it must have felt it, but it didn't jerk when I stuck it in. And then what you're going to do is push it down. There are numbers here, and I want 25%, 25.25 cc, and this is broke into into cc, so about a quarter of a way. It's not a science. If you give them 0.25 or 0.30, it's not going to make any difference, except the vaccine won't go as far. So all you do, stick it in there, push the plunger down a little bit, bird's done. I have two baskets, one on my left, one on my right. When this bird is done, if I'm by myself, I'll put it in the basket and grab the next bird. Now, if you've had any questions, we're going to be talking about paratyphoid first, so we're going to turn the camera around. While they do that, I'm going to get my seat, and we'll talk about the disease itself. Okay. Now, let's talk about paratyphoid. When I was first getting into the business and talking about salmonella, paratyphoid, some vets would talk about salmonella. I know, it was the last show I did this, the whole show, and they gave me hell, so I'm not allowed to hold the pen. But anyways, I didn't know if salmonella and paratyphoid was the same thing. Turns out it is exactly the same thing. So whether you call it paratyphoid or whether you call it salmonella, you're talking about the same thing. Paratyphoid is confused with a virus called PMV, Paratyphoid. The virus, we're hoping to have a vaccine for that, as I said, but the virus is not treatable. We're going to do, if we have time, we'll talk more about viruses later. If not, we'll talk about it in a future show. But the good thing about, if anything can be good about paratyphoid, is the fact that it's treatable and preventable. There aren't too many diseases that are actually preventable. Paratyphoid is one of them. So in talking about paratyphoid, people will ask me how they know they have paratyphoid and what are the symptoms. I'm going to go, I think I can, did I write it? Yeah, I did write it down. Don't mind me, we're not professionals here. All right, what are the symptoms? One of the first things you'll notice is green droppings. Problem is, most pigeons that get sick have green droppings. So green droppings in itself does not mean paratyphoid, but it starts the adding up of all the clues that will lead you to believe you have it. The other symptom is you'll see a bird limping on one leg, and you say, gee, I wonder how the bird hurt itself. And you look, and there's absolutely no marks, there's no cut, nothing, but the bird is limping. And if you look at the leg joint, like your elbow, and you feel it, many times it will be warm to the touch, it'll be swollen a little bit. It's inflammation in the joint, because paratyphoid, because it's so hard to get rid of because it's deep down in the tissue. So a limp is a sign, but it's not the only sign, and E. coli can be a limp too. So now we've given you 2 symptoms and we've got more, but you'll notice every symptom doesn't mean absolutely. It means there's a good chance. The next one is the wing boil. That's fairly common with paratyphoid. That's on the, here again, it's on the joint. In fact, I'll get a bird. We're doing this show in Veronica's office, and she said, if you're going to bring pigeons into my office, make sure they don't poop all over the floor, so I have to catch it. All right. Wing joint is right, hold that, would you please, right there. So right here, this is the wing joint, right here. It's where the wing bends. So if you see a bird's wing hanging down this way and you don't know why, once again, you might think it's hurt itself. It could possibly be paratyphoid, swollen joint. Okay? Now, lethargic. That just means you'll see your birds kind of looking mopey, they're fluffed up, they really don't want to do anything. Well, that's another symptom possible. Eggs. Three different ways it could be paratyphoid in an egg. One or both eggs don't hatch, kind of turn dark colored on you, almost a gray. Could be paratyphoid. The egg is good, it's fertile, and the egg starts to hatch. You can see the egg breaking and the young's coming out. And you go back and look the next day and it's stopped. The bird is dead. Or the egg could be fertile. It could be pipping out, or like I said, they're starting to break through. And the next day you go and the egg hatched. There's the baby. There's 2 babies. Look fine. Next day you go back, dead. Or, and I don't want to go too long in this, I suppose, but it gives you an example of why it's so difficult to diagnose paratyphoid. Another symptom is the lack of coordination. That's fairly common in PMV, Paratyphoid, also, and E. coli, although not as common in E. coli, but it can happen. When we say lack of coordination, you walk in and the bird's nervous, he's shaking, and it might fly right into the wall, or fly up to the ceiling, or try to hit a perch and miss. It's lack of coordination. Or you look at the bird, and the bird's head is almost upside down or twisted. That's another sign of paratyphoid. But PMV has the same thing. That's why it's difficult. So in talking about them, if you've got half a dozen of these, all of these symptoms, or you've got 3 or 4 of them, pretty darn good chance you've got paratyphoid. Another time when paratyphoid rears its head is at weaning. Great background music. Can you hear the birds cooing? I've got 2 males in there and they're fighting. A baby is weaned at around 21 days. When it's born with the parent's immune system. So in many cases, a young pigeon that's out of the nest can fight off paratyphoid. But at 21 days approximately, whether it's 20, 21, 22, that immune system that they inherited from their parents is gone. And that, you'll see paratyphoid hit birds at that age too. So I hope I haven't confused you on paratyphoid. The thing to remember is it's a bacterial infection, not a virus. Being bacterial, there are medicines. We have them in powder, we have them in capsule, and we have them in tablet. All of them are you can use to treat your birds for paratyphoid. You can't prevent it with capsules, powders, and pills. You can't prevent it with that. Those are made for treatment. The advantages of the capsules and the pills are for individual treatment. So if you've only got 15 or 20 birds, it's just as easy to catch them and drop a pill down their throat. But it is a bit time consuming. So that's one option. The other option is to put medication in the drinking water. The directions for the medication are on our website, and they are in our catalog and on the product. It's pretty simple. The directions are pretty much the same for all paratyphoid products. It's 5 days of medication, then 2 days of probiotics only. Put some vitamins in if you want, but the probiotic is the key. Then you're going to do 5 more days of medication, and then you're going to do 2 more days of probiotics. And then I recommend giving probiotics 3 times a week. Can be every other day or something like that. The probiotics, the reason for those are when you give medicine, the medicine doesn't know the difference between good bacteria, bad bacteria. What the medicine does is kills all bacteria in the intestines. So the trick, or what you want to do, is rebuild the good bacteria before the bad bacteria takes hold again. So probiotics does that. And with probiotics on a regular basis, it helps keeps the intestines healthy, and that is one way to help prevent the disease itself. Something slipped my mind and I wanted to say it and I don't remember what. Do you remember? Did I miss anything, Gina? Remember. By the way, this is my daughter, Gina, if you don't know by now. It'll come back to me. Paratyphoid. So if you have a question or if I haven't covered it, you're more than welcome to send in a question. I would mention also the only way to know for sure that you have paratyphoid is through an autopsy by an avian vet. Foy's offers this service, or you can go to your own local vet, but if you need to send a bird in, we will have it autopsied and we'll tell you what the veterinarian says what you might have. Paratyphoid. Furazolidone is the most common. So we sell furazolidone in capsules and in powder, and we sell furaltidone in powdered form for the drinking water. So there's 2 or 3 different drugs that you can use. Did I miss anything, Gina Dawn?
No, but there's a question about
Okay, medicine. We have a question.
Campo asked, is the 4-in-1 tablets good for this as well?
No. I know if you read the directions of 4-in-1 powder or pills, it tells you canker, coccidiosis, worms, paratyphoid. If you want to use the 4-in-1 as a possible preventive, you can do it. But you've got to give it to them pretty much all the time. That's why I'm kind of against it. If you give it to them this week and they have paratyphoid, the 4-in-1 may help. But if they're perfectly healthy or don't have paratyphoid, you've wasted your money. Your best bet is to find out what you have, if at all possible, or a lot of the symptoms that we talk about are in your birds. Then use a product that is made for paratyphoid. Why treat for canker, coccidiosis, and worms? You don't have it. Or why treat for paratyphoid if you don't have it? So find out if you've got it, and then go to the drugs. You wait 14 days after you've medicated. 14 days after you've medicated, and then you can vaccinate. Then after you vaccinate, about 12, 14 days later, you have to vaccinate again. So your first time that you vaccinate your pigeons, this is when you aren't sure or know your birds have never been vaccinated. If somebody gives you some pigeons and says, don't worry about it, I vaccinated them. Don't take the word for it. because if it's your bird now, you want to make sure that bird is vaccinated. So you vaccinate twice, and then the vaccination is once every 6 months. Is that correct? I'm so used to saying, it's once every 6 months. So if you have, I hope that answered your question. We had some other questions we were going to talk about, or do we have another one?
We got some more.
Okay.
Philip asked, does the KM1 vaccination actually help?
2-in-1 or 3-in-1?
The KM1.
The KM1 helps in which way?
Does it help? Does it help with paratyphoid?
Well, no. The KM1 vaccine is not a medicine. It's a preventative. So that's why you're going to treat first with the medication. That's going to help. That's going to knock out the paratyphoid. Then you're going to vaccinate as I described. If you don't vaccinate, I can guarantee you it's going to come back. It might not come back within a week or 2 weeks, but when your birds are under stress meaning breeding season, racing season, show season, puts a lot of stress on them, immune system is weakened, and that's where they're going to get the paratyphoid. So you've got to vaccinate, or you'll go through it again in not too long. It just keeps coming back. You've got to vaccinate. Another one?
Gramus.
Hi, Gramus. Oh, Silvio Maraccioni. Hi, Silvio, my friend up in Canada. He said he was going to try to watch, and I thought I'd say hi. And hi, Gramus. Go ahead.
Gramus said his pigeon's throwing up green water.
Throwing up green water. Gramus. Gramus comes into our store. Off the top of my head, to be perfectly frank, I don't remember. Would you get the health book? Do you have your health book? I have a health book that I'm working on, by the way. Hopefully it'll be ready in a year. It'll be a book on pigeon diseases. But what I do is I write everything down once I'm pretty sure I know what I'm talking about, and I run it past a veterinarian, and the veterinarian will tell me if I'm right or wrong, and when I know I'm pretty right, then that'll go into the book. But right now I have a loose leaf binder, and in that binder is a list of it says droppings with all the different colors or things that could happen that might lead you to believe that you know what you're talking about. So Gramus, we'll come back to that as soon as Gina gets back. I wanted to mention, it seems like everyone should know, but then I have to recognize that there are new people getting into the business all the time, or into the hobby. This is the pigeon leg band. Now this is a big one, fits on the end of my finger. This is size 13, but I wanted to show you how to band a bird, if there's ever any question. Oops, come on. Now you should band all of your pigeons. It's senseless not to. This bird has a leg band on it. This leg band tells me this bird was born in 2016, so it's a year old. It has a serial number, and it says AU. That means the American Racing Pigeon Union. If you lost this bird, all you have to do is type in AU, which stands for the American Racing Pigeon Union. It'll come up with contact information. You tell them the number that's on this bird, and they'll tell you, well, that band was sold to Foy's, because Foy's name is on it. You would call or email Foy's. We would look this band number up, see who we sold it to, and give you that information if you found a bird. So it's one way of tracking. And also, if you're going to have pigeons, there are going to be times when you might want to sell them or trade them or show them. You can't show without a band. And if you're going to sell the bird, everybody wants to know how old is the bird. They don't want a 10-year-old bird. Now this bird, look at that big wattle, the wattle. This is called the wattle. I'm sorry. This is called wattle. I'm right. On some birds, this gets real big on the older birds. Now this bird's only 1 year old. You can see how big that wattle is. It's part of the strain. So it's important. I was going to show you, if you want a band, now I'm using an oversized band because you can't get a band on an old bird. This band will not come off. It's put on when they're in the nest, when their leg is small. Within a couple of days, they grow so fast, the band will never come off. What you do is you hold 3 toes, Here's the three front toes. Kind of squeeze them together, and you put the band on over those three toes, and you slide it down. Get in there. You slide it down over the last toe, the back toe, and it goes down, and then you can see this toe comes up. Once you've got that on there, now this one would come off, but being the correct size, this is 13, the correct size is 8, it would never come off again. Now, there have been times when, having so many pigeons, I missed it. The bird is maybe 4 or 5 days, what's the matter, the dust? 4 or 5 days, the bird is grown, it's almost impossible to get it on. Try Vaseline. What I use is WD-40. I spray the inside of the band, I spray the leg, and most times it'll slip right on. So don't worry if you can't get that band on at first. Just spray it with the WD-40 or Vaseline or something like that. All right, Gromus asked me about droppings.
Vomiting.
Vomiting.
Green
Okay.
vomiting, that's all I could find.
All right, green vomiting, should have known that. Generally speaking, Gromus, and you don't want to hear this, it's the adenovirus. Not always, but that's one of the real signs. You'll see vomit of feed on the perch or on the floor, usually on the perches. That's almost always adenovirus. And if it is the adenovirus, there is no treatment. You can give them there's a product called AdenoZap, an immune powder. Those are made to help the birds get through it, but it doesn't treat it. Hope that answered your question. Of course, Gromus, you've got my home phone number. I'll probably hear from you tonight. Okay. Do we have another question?
Yes. Let me see. Pigeon pox vaccine, is it available?
No. The United States government, the first of the year, January 1st, banned the sale of all vaccines made it overseas, and then on top of that, the company that made the pox vaccine discontinued the manufacture. So you can't get the pox vaccine. Pox, if you don't know, once again, it's a virus, but it's kind of different from most viruses. It's carried by the mosquito, and when it bites the bird and it bites through the skin and draws blood, it's passing on the pox. And the pox will grow around the eye sear. Get a bird. Nice to have a bird here. Okay, this is the eye sear, bare skin. This is the nose wattle, bare skin. So if you see a growth right here, it first looks like a little bubble, and then it turns to a sore, and then it turns to a scab. So it can be here, it can be here, it can be on the feet, and if there's any bare spot, occasionally they get through. There's some bare skin right in here. So that is the pox. No treatment at all. We sell a product called Pox Dry. That's not a treatment. All it is a way for the sore, the scab, to dry up and fall off quicker. The good news is it's ugly as sin, but it's not a killer. It makes them a little sick, but it won't kill them. You just have to wait it out. I've seen it go 6 or 8 weeks before, and even longer before all the scabs are gone. But if you have it, do your best to quarantine the bird that has it. And if more get it, it is contagious. Try to separate them, because the way it's passed from bird to bird is through contact, pecking at each other, or through the drinking water. Which reminds me, when you talk about paratyphoid, which we were, that's one of the ways it's transmitted too, pecking, but usually from the drinking water. Another one?
Yeah, but first I wanted to say hi to some of our viewers and say where they're from. Mike is from Florida. Joe and Peggy King from Dexter, not sure where that's at. John from San Jose, California. Trey is from Ruston, Louisiana. Mark Payne from Australia. And
hard to believe, Australia.
Right, and Christopher from Brooklyn.
We sent an order out last week to Hong Kong. It's just amazing the way the world has changed. When I first got into the business, I may have mentioned this before. The first week, this was in 2000, when the mail come, we'd have a stack of letters that high. It was just unbelievable. And as time went by, it went from there to there to there to there. And now there are days when we get no mail at all. It's all email and telephone. And speaking of the telephone, if you want to get a hold of me, all you have to do is call FOIS. It's 724-843.
6889.
So if you want to call FOIS, 724-843-6889, or get on our website. If you want to talk to me, I'll be more than happy to talk to you. If you have a health question, just ask whoever answers the phone. You'll be amazed. We've been together as a team for almost 18 years now. Everybody here knows pigeon health better than most of you. So if you have a question, they'll answer it. If they can't answer it, they'll give you my home phone number. You're welcome to call me at home. People call and kind of apologize that they're bothering me, but I'm retired from voice, and I get a kick out of talking to the customers and discussing their issues. It isn't always health, but that's the main reason people call me. Do you have another question?
Yeah, Anthony asked, is it okay to refrigerate the vaccines after being opened?
Great question, because I didn't mention that. When you vaccinate, the directions will tell you once you've started vaccinating, when you're done that day, you have to throw it away. I don't. I'm not saying I'm right, but I've been doing it for years and I've never had a problem. What I do when I'm going to vaccinate is I take a brand new needle, never been in a bird, and I stick it in the bottle, like it's sticking up just like that. And then I fill my syringe. So I pull it, I push it, put it in here, and I pull it out, and I've got a syringe that's full. Then I pull this out. This needle stays in. So this needle has never been in a bird. So and then I grab another needle from a new package, put it on, vaccinate my birds. When this is empty, I take it off. I want to fill it, got another needle, it's here, stick it in there, and pull it out again. So if you don't do that, and if you ever stick a needle in a bottle that's been in a bird, you've contaminated it. When you're done, throw it away. It's not going to work at all, and it could make the bird sick. So the only way to use it, in answer to your question, of course, you have to refrigerate it. But never stick a dirty needle into a bottle. So Anthony, was that his name? Well, the gentleman, yes. Thank you for asking, because I forgot to pass that. I hope you noticed that last week I didn't comb my hair, so I did this week. I got a couple of comments about my hair sticking up. Anything else?
Hi Cam, I forgot to mention Cam is from Hawaii. Oh. And then
hi, Cam.
Also Manny is from the North Pole.
North Hills.
North Pole.
North Pole. Oh, for those of you who may not know, North Pole is a city in Alaska. So I have shipped pigeons to North Pole, Alaska. So when he says he's from the North Pole, I'll bet he's from North Pole, Alaska. I sent some birds up there a while ago. As most of you know, our new catalog is available, the 2018. So if you don't have one, just give us a call, free of charge. We'll mail you one. More questions?
Yeah. David Nesmith asked, what are the 2 most common illnesses that pigeons get, and what are the best precautions?
3 that they get. There's 3
what
of
are
them.
The
yeah.
2? Yeah.
And the 3-in-1 product: canker, coccidiosis, worms. So those are the 3 most common, and there is a product called 3-in-1 which would treat all of those. It's a powder that goes into the drinking water. So those are the most common, but where a lot of people get confused is canker, coccidiosis, and worms are in fact not a disease, not a virus, not a bacterial infection. They are protozoa, want of a better term. They're bugs that live in the bird: canker, coccidiosis, and worms. So if you had amoxicillin or any kind of an antibiotic and used it against canker, coccidiosis, or worms, it's a waste of time. So the most common. And then if you got into bacterial infection, it's almost an epidemic in the United States, paratyphoid. It's everywhere. Hope I answered that one.
Yep.
Do you have that inquiry while you're looking at? I'll answer this. The one I wanted to list all the different things we need if you call in.
Wait, what?
This one, yeah.
Oh.
And then you can add. Do you want me to answer this question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You made me lose it. Oh, Alex.
Hey, Alice. They named a TV Alec? Oh, I thought it was Alice. They had a TV program named Alice years ago. That's my age. Go ahead. Alec.
I think we already answered this about the vaccinating on the inner web of the pigeon leg. Yep. The
answer is no, don't do it. Goes in the back of the neck. I'm going to read this because I think it was this is from a gentleman, Gregory M. Don't know where he was from. But his question was this: do you have any recommendations for the daily preventive medicines for my pigeons? No such thing. You can't prevent, you can only react. If you used medication on a regular basis and they don't have a disease, you wasted your money. And the other thing, if you use medication on a regular basis without any real reason for it, then the birds could develop an immunity to it. So I thought, what I'm going to do is discuss preventive, not with medicine. So people call me a lot, or they'll email me. Keep in mind, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You don't tell me they've got green droppings and I tell you what to use. I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions so that I can narrow in on what the problem might be. Here are the questions, and I know you may not you may not remember them all, but keep in mind, tell me as much as you can.
This is ways to prevent.
Number one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is going to be ways to prevent diseases. The first one is you do not want to overcrowd your pigeons.
In America, it seems like we have a tendency to have too many pigeons. We all do. I've got 300 to 500 at any given time. But don't crowd your pigeons. The reason I tell you that is that if you crowd them, it creates fights, it creates stress. When you lower the immune system with the fighting and the stress, you're inviting disease. So do your very best not to crowd your pigeons. And always have 2 or 3 extra perches. If you've got 20 birds, put up 23, 24 perches so that if a bird wants a particular perch and they're getting fighting and he loses the fight, he needs a place to go. And it may be a strange perch and he may go to that. Next one.
Bring in as few new pigeons as possible.
Say that again?
Bring in as few new pigeons as possible.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Brianna. I don't have my hearing aid in. All right. Overcrowding, number one. Number two, be very cautious of bringing new birds in. New birds can make your bird sick, or your birds can make the new bird sick because they're resistant to different strains of disease. If you're going to bring new pigeons in, quarantine them. So important. And if you can possibly quarantine them in a different building, that's even better. If you were to bring birds in from Europe, in a lot of cases, the quarantine period is 60 to 90 days before they'll release them into our country. That gives them enough time to see if the birds are healthy. So if you bring in new birds, quarantine them. If you get a stray pigeon in there, get it out of there as quick as you possibly can. Those stray pigeons may make your birds sick.
Should they quarantine them in the same building or a different building?
No. Do your very best. Another building where they're not sharing the air and all of it. If you can put them in a separate building, it's much better. If you can't, then put a cage, put the birds in it as far away as the birds that you have. Another one?
Ventilate, well ventilated.
Most of you have seen these vents in the roof of houses. I have them in all of my pigeon coops. When the wind is blowing, and it doesn't have to be much, like I have a 122-foot loft, I have 3 of them. They spin. They're called turbines or whirlybirds. So the air is sucked up out of that to the outside, helps keep the air clean. Also, you need a way for fresh air to come in. So you have to leave windows open. What a lot of people do is the top 3 or 4 inches from the floor up the wall. They'll cut a strip of wood right out of there and put screen over it, something so bugs, or not bugs, but something so varmints can't get in. So the air comes in at the bottom and goes out the top. Good way to ventilate your loft. Or if you can put fans, anything you can do to get fresh air in is very important.
The next one is clean and disinfect the loft regularly.
Okay, that seems to make sense, and it seems so simple, but I try to clean my loft, and I've got a lot of pigeons, roughly 2 to 3 weeks apart, and one of the things I do, number one, my floors are covered with something called
floor covering.
Floor covering. It's made in Belgium, and it's anti-coccidiosis also, but it's ground up clay. I put that on the floor about 3 inches thick, 2-3 inches thick. That's one way it makes it easier for me to clean the loft. I put all of my perches, when possible, on one wall, stacked one above the other, so that the droppings come straight down, and they collect underneath those perches in most cases. Then I have what's called a pitchfork. It's made for hay, but I have mine made for hay, but I use it for what I'm going to do. I stick it into the floor covering underneath the droppings, pick up the whole thing, drop it in a box. And I can clean a 12 by 8 loft in 5 minutes. Scrape the perches first, of course, scrape the tops of your drinkers and feeders, and then pull all those droppings out. And clean your nest boxes. When you have babies, you can handle them, of course, but when the droppings start to collect, pick that nest bowl up, get the droppings out of there, clean the nest bowl, and put new nesting material in. Okay?
Also, change the water daily.
Yeah.
And if it's hot weather, make sure you change it twice a day.
Once again, that's important. If you're going to go away for 2 or 3 days, you might get away by doing it for 2 or 3 days, a big drinker. But in America, I talk about it all the time, we have a tendency to be lazy. In Europe, most of the medications are used on the feed. In America, we don't. We want it in the drinking water. It makes it easier. But if you change the water every day, you're controlling disease, especially in hot weather. Why? Hot weather builds bacteria very, very quickly in the drinking water. So even though I have 13 sections of lofts of pigeons, I clean the water, empty the water out every day. What I do is I have a 1 gallon plastic pan is what I use with a cone top over it. So this time of the year, you go into the loft, froze solid. I knock the pan on the side of a block, ice pops out, and then I put a brand new bowl for water. The one that the ice popped out of, I take it into my cleaning area where I wash that bowl and it's ready for the next day. So I'm going back and forth. I don't use heaters.
Add supplements every week to your water.
There's a product called Ultra Pro. It's what I use, and I use all the time, 3 to 4 times a week. What I try to do is 5 days a week, 6 days a week, nothing wrong with that, and I give them Sundays a day off with clear water. So I use Ultra Pro, Ultra meaning an ultra vitamin, Pro meaning a probiotic, so the birds are exposed to that on a regular basis.
Treat before and after breeding season with 3-in-1 as directed.
Yeah. We've talked about 3-in-1 3 or 4 times now. It's not an antibiotic, 3 most common. So before I put my birds together to breed, I treat them all with 3-in-1 as directed. When they're all done breeding and all the birds are weaned, I treat them all again. So that's one of the few times I would suggest using something even though you don't know whether they're sick or not. I use it because it's not an antibiotic. It's to kill those protozoa.
If possible, separate the hens and cocks after breeding season.
Do that too. A lot of work sometimes when you have as many birds as I do, but it's important that you, if you can do it, to have a separate section for hens, separate section for cocks. Pigeons will breed almost as long as they possibly can. They'll start breeding around here in March, and if you let them, they'll breed through almost through November. It's a lot of stress on the pigeons. So what I do is I separate my birds in August. I put all the hens on one side, all the cocks on the other, so that when I want to start breeding, and I breed early, I put my birds together right around Thanksgiving, so that I have young ones in January, or right around January 1st. So if you separate them, the other, number one, it allows them some time to recoup from the breeding process. Raising young ones takes a lot out of them, so I give them a rest. The other thing is that now when I want to mate my birds, it's easy. I just take any cock, because they haven't been with a mate for a while. I put them in a nest box, lock it up, and within a few days they're mated, and then I put another pair in, and that's how I do it.
Have your droppings checked regularly?
Yeah. If you have a relationship with a veterinarian, it's great, especially if it's a veterinarian that has some bird experience, avian experience. But that's the best way to see if you have a problem. Call a vet, tell them you want to take some fresh droppings down. Most of them will do it for you, look them at a microscope. Like I say, if they're not experienced, they really don't know what they're looking at or looking for. But with an experienced vet, he does. Or there are other companies that, besides us, to do it. But Foy's, if you'll send us a sample of your droppings, then we'll send them to a vet, and it's an avian vet, a pigeon man, and he will look at those droppings and tell us what the problem is, or he may want to call you himself to talk it over. So if you have the droppings done by us, Paul will look at them, tell you what the problem is, and suggest a treatment. So if you need that done, call Foy's 724-843-6889 and ask for Sherry. She handles that. There's a way to send them to us, so she'll tell you how to do it.
And the last one is to keep a broad spectrum antibiotic on hand.
Yeah, in the questions I get, one that's familiar, and I've got two. I think we had some people send that question in this week. The question was, what should I keep in my loft in case I need it? You can't carry everything, and in today's world, if you need it, Foy sends their orders out the same day we get them. So if you call us before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's going out today. You'll either have it tomorrow or the next day, sometimes 3 days. But if you want to keep something, I would keep Ultra Pro, vitamin, and probiotics. I would keep 3-in-1. I'm going to use it for sure. Canker, coccidiosis, and worms. I'm going to keep one antibiotic, and the one I keep is amoxicillin. I say that, but understand there's a door there. I can go out into the store and get anything I want. But I always have amoxicillin in my loft. And if I'm not sure, or if I'm waiting for doctor to check my droppings, I put them on amoxicillin. And if you do put them on amoxicillin or any antibiotic, don't put them on it for 3 days and stop. Put them on it for a minimum of 5. 7 is better. That's just about any antibiotic.
Another good one is Tony's Treasure tablets.
Great.
Keep on hand.
Yeah. If you have one sick bird or 2 sick birds, Tony's Treasure tablets treat so many things. It's a good one to have. I'm glad you mentioned it. I think if I had the choice between amoxicillin or Tony's Treasure, I'd have Tony's Treasure, because most of the time it starts out with one bird. So I pull that bird out and treat it in a cage until it's cured. By golly, we've gone 45 minutes already.
Wow.
Are there any other questions, sir?
Yeah. Russ asks, is 4-in-1 and 3-in-1 the same thing? No.
Basically, but the answer is no. 3-in-1, canker, coccidiosis, and worms. 4-in-1, canker, coccidiosis, worms, paratyphoid. So there's an antibiotic in 4-in-1, and I don't like using antibiotics unless I have to. Are we going to wrap it up?
One more question.
Okay.
Anthony asks, can he add antibiotics to the pigeon builder? Pigeon builder vitamin.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I would think no. Think about it. Probiotics means good. Pro. Antibiotic means no. Anti. So if you try to put an anti and a pro together, they're going to fight each other or reduce the possibility of either one of them being effective. Go ahead.
Pigeon builder, the vitamin.
Same thing. It's a vitamin. You don't want to put a. I would not. Although some people do with luck. My experience says no, and I've talked to veterinarians, and they say no. Once again, I remind you, if you're just tuning in, if you ordered bands from Foy's, thank goodness, every order we got is in the mail. We go through in 1 year about 250,000 bands, but this time of the year is the busiest of all, and we actually had to bring somebody in part-time to help us catch up, but every band is on its way. I think it's time to close it down. No other questions?
No, but I wanted to make a statement. We will be in Fremont, Ohio next weekend at the show, and then the following weekend we will be in Lancaster, PA.
Mm-hmm. And the reason we tell you that is come meet us. But the other thing is, if you're going to be at Fremont, call us if you need something, especially if it's heavy and bulky. You can save a lot of shipping. So call us, and it's at the fairgrounds in Fremont, Ohio. If you're going to the Lancaster show, same thing. We'll bring the product to you. We have the largest display of any vendor. I think in Lancaster, we actually put up 12 or 14 tables, so we have a lot of product. Give you the opportunity to come and see some of our stuff. Don't have to buy it, but at least you know what it looks like. We're done. I thank you very much for tuning in. We're doing it again. What's the next date, Veronica? 12th. January 12th will be on the air. I remind you, please send in questions. Pardon?
That's the Lancaster show.
January 12th is the Lancaster. Yeah, but that's a Friday. Oh yeah, we'll have to figure that out. We'll put it on Facebook because we'll be in Lancaster on that Friday, so we won't be able to do a show. We'll figure it out, and we'll let you know. I remind you, if you need a catalog, call us. If you have questions, please send them in. It makes the show go so much quicker. Hope you've enjoyed it. Veronica's behind the scenes. She sets it all up. Gina is my daughter, and if you call and ask for her, you'll be surprised how much she does know about pigeons. I'm Jerry Gagne. Thanks for watching.